on Australian radio. And if you always wish you'd seen the Fab Four at Festival Hall back in the 60s, then the next best thing is on its way. Today Tonight's Tracy Hutchinson enjoyed an exclusive sneak preview with a Beatle by the name of Sir George Martin.
1,500 to 2,000 people crammed in between the approaches to the Melbourne Town Hall.
If you were too young in '64, you're in for another chance. The Beatles are back in town.
And you come on and say, being for the benefit of Mr. Kite, there will be a show tonight on trampoline.
Welcome the fifth and perhaps most influential Beatle, the producer of every Beatles record, Sir George Martin. Sir George is in Australia for the All You Need Is Beatles concerts, orchestral rock and roll featuring Australian greats like Glenn Shorrock, James Raine and Tommy Emmanuel.
And it comes out of the piano, sets the thing up. Dung jung da dung jung da dung gong.
They'll perform around 40 Beatles classics, spanning every phase of the band's career.
Beatle music goes in and out of fashion. Actually, I don't think it's ever gone out of fashion, but it goes up and down. And I think people now are very happy to hear Beatles songs done as they were done originally, with all the trimmings of the symphony orchestra, brass and strings and so on.
But when Martin first introduced the idea of strings to Paul McCartney, he didn't like it.
He looked at me absolutely horrified, and he said, "Oh, I don't want any of that Mantovani stuff." I said, "Well, it doesn't have to be Mantovani. You could have just a string quartet, a chamber music." He said, "Never heard of that." And then when we did it, he was delighted with it. And even Lennon came in and said, "That's great, that's cool," he said.
This is the first time Sir George has heard this band rehearse, our most seasoned performers looking like big kids in a musical candy store.
Well, it's a bit of an ordeal, isn't it? To suddenly have, as he's termed, the fifth Beatle come in, and all of a sudden you're playing virtually his music to him. I mean, I'm still trying to settle myself down a bit.
The Australian shows are the brainchild of Glenn Shorrock, who worked with Martin during his Little River Band days. He managed to convince Sir George to come out of semi-retirement and bring the orchestral Beatles shows down under.
This is retirement, actually. The retirement bit is, I'm not retiring, but I'm not making any more records. 48 years in the business, I mean, it's a half a century. Much too long for anybody. With any self-respect, I should have gone long ago.
What do you think about the performance of these musicians? Are they any good?
Oh yeah, it's a very good band here.
Martin was with the Beatles from day one in 1962, through Hard Day's Night and Sgt. Pepper's, to Abbey Road and Let It Be.
They were cheeky devils, and I always say that success hasn't changed them. They're still the same arrogant little devils they always were.
At 72, Sir George Martin is a music industry anomaly, his health and vitality defying 5 decades in the business.
People are not supposed to live that long in rock and roll. What's the secret?
Well, that's why I'm saying I shouldn't do it anymore. You know, I don't know. I'm only 16 years older than the oldest Beatle, so that's not too much a gap.
And with hips that swing with such verve, it could almost be 1964.
And the All You Need Is Beatles concert is on at the Melbourne Concert Hall at the end of the month.